What is up guys, Destiny Gamer X here and welcome back to yet another video where today I'm going to be showing you guys how to land like a pro in X-Plane 10 mobile. So the first thing you'd want to do is select a runway which is long and quite easy to approach onto. So for learning purposes I personally prefer having KGF, start new route, add to route, and let's edit our start type for an IFR approach. And for the purposes of this I'm going to be using the Boeing 737 because it's the most developed plane, if that even makes sense, and fairly optimal weather conditions. So the first thing you definitely want to do is pause, stop, and take a look around. Find the runway that you're actually approaching onto if you actually have visuals. And we also are at a fairly decent altitude along with a fairly decent airspeed. The next thing what we'd want to do is resume the game and switch into the HUD mode. Now the HUD mode is actually really useful because we can actually see our estimated area of touchdown. The estimated area of touchdown is that green box right over there. So we want to align the green box right towards the runway. And another thing to keep in mind of is the PAPI lights. Those are the 4 red lights that can be seen right before the runway. These 4 red lights actually show us the proportion in which we should be approaching the runway in accordance to what is actually required or recommended. So if say we were actually approaching the runway at the recommended altitude, our PAPI lights would be such that there would be 2 red and 2 white. However, in this case, we are too low and hence there are 4 reds. However, if we were too high, there would be 4 whites. It will make no sense in a bit. So therefore 4 reds means we are a bit too low and we should start ascending upwards. And we should also lower our airspeed. Our optimal speed of touchdown should be 140 knots. And as you can see, we've increased our altitude by a considerable amount and one of the PAPI lights has actually turned white. So this shows that we are on path to having a good approach and an optimal approach. So we should continue ascending such that 2 of the PAPI lights are white. That would be the optimal altitude to approach the runway. And yep, our second PAPI light has just turned white and that means that we are now at the optimal altitude to approach the runway. Furthermore, what we should do is keep in mind a required rate of descent, not staying at the same altitude, and also check our airspeed to make sure that it isn't depleting too much. The next thing we can always do is align our estimated area of touchdown with the base of the runway now that we are at the recommended altitude. And also keep our airspeed in mind because it is going a bit too high right now. Let's also lower our flaps. Flaps help us fly at a lower speed without stalling, and they also help us reduce our speed, which is quite nice while landing and is also required while taking off. It's time to lower the next notch of flaps. We are going a bit too fast, so we need to lower the next notch. So let's just slow ourselves down. Our estimated speed should be around 140 knots. Since we're going way too fast, let's lower the last notch of flaps or the second to last notch of flaps. It depends on your runway length. And somewhere around now would be the optimal time to lower the landing gear, or perhaps even earlier if you are going a bit too fast or if you are a bit too high. Lowering the landing gear causes a lot of drag and also causes a lot of noise and causes your plane to slow down by quite a bit, so do be aware of that. 1,000. As you can see, we had our first call out. We are at 1,000 feet. That's actually our second call out, but the first significant one. We need to align the green box to the base of the runway as we have been all this time. We're moving way too fast here. So even though we have the sync rate allowed, that would actually be necessary.
400. Charlie, just confirm you have the Gulf Stream that you can proceed southeastbound. 300.
Now since we are approaching the runway, a good measure to be taken is actually to slightly pull up our nose. Now this is not a flare as we are still 300 feet above the ground, but pulling up our nose is optimal for a nice and soft touchdown. So now we're at 200 feet. As you can see, my nose has been slightly pulled up, but we've not neared the flare stage just yet. But a good stage would be to slightly increase the throttle speed and also to pull up ever so slightly so as to optimize yourself for a good touchdown. Let's move forward. 50. Alright, we just heard the 50 call out, and as you can see, my nose is pulled up by quite a bit, so this is something that's known as a flare. So a flare is a rapid pullback, or maybe rapid or slightly less rapid depending on the circumstances right before touchdown, so as to provide for a smooth landing. This is what a flare is, and this is optimal for a good landing.
30. Papa Romeo, runway 1, clear to take off.
So let's flare. 30.
Left of Victor,
And
head
slowly
on Bravo, and ground
touch the plane down. Now immediately engage in the parking brakes, put in the reverse thrusters, and also engage in the speed brakes. Now that touchdown was a bit late, and I think that was a fairly decent touchdown. While landing a plane may seem daunting at first, you'll eventually get the hang of it. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Thank you all again, and I will see you all next time. Bye.